an increase in large earthquakes is expected globally in the future because Earth's rotation is slowing. There is no mention of volcanic activity being affected by this slowing of Earth's rotation, but we can logically conclude they could be affected by this increased seismic activity, in the fact that geological activity will be increasing. The scientists said they have a rough idea where may be most affected, areas closer to the equator, but they did say that they cannot be absolutely sure. One of my first thoughts was, what if this were to happen near one of the supervolcanoes, such as Yellowstone, for example? That would not be good, as well as the above-mentioned risk of increased volcanic activity, which they did not mention. I would imagine there would also be an increased risk of tsunami events as a result of large quakes, depending on if they occurred on or near bodies of water, of course. This is via The Guardian UK. Scientists say a number of severe quakes is likely to rise strongly because in the future because of the periodic slowing of the Earth's rotation. Scientists warned there could be a big increase in numbers of devastating earthquakes around the world. They believe variations in the speed of Earth's rotation could trigger intense seismic activity, particularly in heavily populated tropical regions. Although much fluctuation in rotation is small, changing the length of the day by a millisecond, they could still be implicated as the release of vast amounts of underground energy, it's argued. The link between Earth's rotation and seismic activity was highlighted in a paper by Roger Billum in the University of Colorado in Boulder and Rebecca Bendick of the University of Montana in Missoula, and presented at the annual meeting of the Geological Society of America. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. Although these geologists are from America, of course, they're talking about worldwide global earthquakes. They said the correlation between Earth's rotation and earthquake activity is strong and suggests there is going to be an increase in numbers of intense earthquakes. Billum told Observer. In their study, Billum and Bendick looked at earthquakes of magnitude 7 and greater that occurred since the year 1900. And Billum said, major earthquakes have been well recorded for more than a century, and that gives us a good record to study. They found 5 periods where there had been significantly higher numbers of large earthquakes compared with other times. In these periods, there were between 25 to 30 intense earthquakes a year, Billum said. The rest of the time, the average figure was around 15 major earthquakes a year. So there was about twice as much. Now, the researchers searched to find correlations between these periods of intense seismic activity and other factors, and discovered that when Earth's rotation decreased slightly, it was followed by periods of increased numbers of intense earthquakes. The rotation of the Earth does change slightly by a millisecond and day sometimes, and that could be measured very accurately by atomic clocks, Billum explained. Billum and Bendick found that there had been periods of around 5 years when Earth's rotation slowed by such an amount several times over the past century and a half. Crucially, these periods were followed by periods when the numbers of intense earthquakes increased. Billum said, it is straightforward. The Earth is offering us a 5-year heads up on future earthquakes. The link particularly important because Earth's rotation began one of its periodic slowdowns more than a couple of years ago. The inference is clear, Billum said. In the future, we'll see a significant increase in numbers of severe earthquakes. We have had it easy this year. So far, we've only had about 6 severe earthquakes. We could easily have 20 a year starting now. Now, exactly why decreases in day length should be linked to earthquakes is unclear, although scientists suspect that slight changes in the behavior of Earth's core could be causing both effects. Also, it's difficult to predict where these extra earthquakes will occur, although Billum said they found that most of the intense earthquakes that responded to change in day length seems to occur near the equator. About 1 billion people live in the Earth's tropic regions. This is by Robbie McKee on The Guardian UK Embedded Reality. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.